Kojo decided to have some conversation on the subject. He decided to find out all that we need to know about earthquakes and seismic data and what causes them.
Tremor?
Okay, tremor.
Yes.
By just borrowing the phrase from Neil Ante van der Poel. All that we need to know and what needs to be done and the precautions that need to be taken. So let's watch this.
Okay. So, what are we looking at here?
Yes, so this is an earthquake monitoring room. So we have our seismometer equipment that detects earthquake placed in this vault. We dug this vault to the bedrock because we want to install the equipment on the bedrock and not on the soft ground. So we excavate out the loose soil, get to the bedrock, and we put the seismometer there because we would want to put it on a ground that is very quiet, very isolated. So we also cover the seismometer with this, the cover, the trillium cover there to shield the seismometer from the effect of wind because we want to monitor only the shaking of the ground and not the effect of the wind should be isolated. So that is why we cover it. Because the seismometer is, the one that has been covered is very, very sensitive. It is all the time measuring the velocities of the ground, of the seismic waves of the ground. It is all the time monitoring it. And because it's very sensitive,
Seismic
we have to isolate
waves.
it. Yeah.
Just for the benefit of our audience, what exactly are seismic waves?
Seismic waves are when an earthquake occurs, the point that breaks, after the breaking, energy that is stored in the rock that have broken is released in the form of waves. It's just like dropping a stone in water. If you drop a stone in water, you see the ripple moving outward. It's the same thing. When the earth breaks, it releases the energy stored in it in the form of waves, rippling, going, moving. Yeah. So when the waves moves and it reaches where you have a seismometer, it will record it.
So an earthquake is the breaking of the earth?
It's breaking of the earth because there are stresses acting on the earth. If the earth cannot contain any more of the stresses, it breaks and releases all the energy that it has accumulated.
So these machines are measuring the impact of these breaks?
Yes, because if there is no earthquake, you have background noise of the earth which doesn't show bigger amplitudes. So you have a smaller background noise reading all constantly. But as soon as earthquake comes, you see it recording it. So you'll be able to clearly see the time that the waves arrived here.
Does this equipment allow you to predict earthquakes?
It doesn't allow to predict because, as I said, the waves have to reach there before it can detect it. So it's only when the waves have reached where the station is, which means the earthquake might have occurred before the waves will arrive there for you to pick it and analyze it. So it doesn't allow you to actually predict.
But that's interesting. That's important. I'll ask you a bit more about that later.
You're welcome.
But I'm curious about the equipment. It's covered right now. Can we see what's underneath it? Is that possible?
Yes, I can ask my colleague to uncover it so that you see the type of equipment it is. Yes. So this is the seismometer. So we place it on this, we've leveled it. You can see there's a bubble there. When you place it, you have to screw this thing under it for it to fall exactly on the center because we are recording three components. We are recording the waves that is vibrating vertically, the waves that is vibrating horizontally, east-west, the wave that is vibrating north-south. So we record three different waves by this distance. So if you level it, you have all the sensors well leveled for accurate recording.
Whatever data it records is then transmitted through these cables?
Yes.
So
yes.
This equipment here.
Yes. Then it is stored. This is a digitizer. You see, this is particularly recording a continuous waveform. You know, the continuous waveform is not digitized. Computer doesn't understand this continuous waveform. So this will digitize it into numbers. So when they digitize it, so you know, a wave, we have the pole, we have the zeros. So it picks the zeros, pick the maximum poles, it picks the zeros. So if you have all these, you can reconstruct this into the original waveform. When it has been digitized by this, you can reconstruct the digital numbers back into the original waveform here.
Right.
Because so that you can then store it in the computer.
Can you show us how it looks once?
Yes. When we get to the other side, you will look at the wave and you will see how this thing has digitized the wave that has been recorded here, and I've put them there. So we have internet connectivity, which transmits the data from the digitizer straight. There is an internet modem here, a router here, which helps to transmit the data from the digitizer into the computer, right, so that we can access the data.
How reliable is your internet connection?
Internet connection is a problem in Ghana. You know, you cannot have a reliable internet. So what we normally do is, apart from the internet we are running here, you can also subscribe to other companies, yeah, other services like MTN, Vodafone, whatever. So you only buy their chip, buy a bundle on it, place it in the router in there. Then it can serve as a backup. If one of them fails, the other can do the transmission for you.
Now, obviously, this is just one of many of your seismometers. Right?
Yes.
So how many do you have in total?
In total, we have 9 in Ghana.
Right.
Yes. So this is the one in Jimpa, our office around Jimpa. Yeah. We have another one at Weja. We have one at Shy Hills, another at Akosombo. We have one at Ho. And then the central region, we have one at Salt Pond. If you go to Western, we have one at Asankregwa. If you go to Ashanti, we have one on Lake Busemche at Kumasi. Yes, and if you come to the Eastern region too, we have one at Kukurantumi, including what I mentioned area in Shy Hills and this thing. So in all, we have 9 remote stations. So we've placed them at all these places, and we know where our fault is, which runs through the Aquapem Ridge here, and it goes all the way to Ho. So we have placed these equipments in the southern and most importantly southeastern part of Ghana, where these fault lines run. So if there is...
fault line is sort of the line along which it is most likely for an earthquake
to occur. Yes. Okay. So a fault line is simply a weak zone. So the stresses that are acting on the earth, when a critical moment reaches, it is that weak zone that normally breaks. So those are what we refer to as the fault lines.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So all of these 9 seismometers are transmitting information here constantly?
Yes, that is what it was initially designed to do. This one was recently installed, and this one we are using internet to do the transmission. But the other ones, we are using the satellites. When we go outside, you will see one of our satellite dishes there. And at the remote stations, we have satellite dishes everywhere. So they communicate and transmit the data here.
Right.
Yes. But it's just that at the moment, we have a challenge with the data transmission because of the breakdown of the satellite.
The satellite has broken down?
The satellite transmission system has broken down.
Right. So, how long ago did it break down?
Oh, for some time now. And when 24th March event even occurred, we faced the same. So about almost a year now, we've not been having the satellite there. So we wrote to the ministry, our sector ministry, and then, you know, sometimes things take some time. So during the recent meet the press with our minister, he made mention of the fact that budget has been approved for 24/7 monitoring of events or earthquakes in Ghana. So as soon as we get that budget, we'll be able to establish the satellite transmission system so that every data will be coming, so that as soon as something happens, in a matter of seconds, we just give.
Right. So can we see what comes out of these and what it looks like on your computer screen?
So if I should mention again, so this is a seismometer. This is a broadband seismometer. It is measuring ground velocities of the waves. The small one is a strong motion. It's not sensitive, so that one we don't cover it. There's the broadband seismometer, which is very sensitive, so we have to cover it and isolate it from the effect of wind. This is not sensitive, so the wind doesn't affect it at all. And that one is measuring ground acceleration. We also have a GPS installed on top of this building. It connects through these wires, and it also comes through this tiny PC, and it's also transmitting data. And with that tool, we are able to measure ground, the deformations or displacements of the ground. So we are measuring 3 parameters here: displacement, velocity, and acceleration.
Very good. Okay. So yes, can we go and have a look at how it all comes out on the computer?
All right, we can do that.
Okay.
So these are seismic waves which are arriving here real time through internet connectivity, you see.
Wow.
So this ACRG, the one I've highlighted, that is the station which is in the room, which we just observed. That is what is transmitting this data here.
Right.
And it's not only that station that we are connected to, we are also connected to other several stations around the world.
Okay.
So they are all producing, they are all sending their seismic waves. So if anything happens around the globe, we're able to monitor it.
How are you able to make sense of this? To a layman, it just looks like a bunch of squiggly lines.
Yes.
But what are you actually looking at? What is this telling you?
Yes. This is what we are looking at, is to look at, these are all background noise. So as soon as there is any unusual amplifications, it picks it. This thing is looks clumsy, everything is together. But if you take them one after the other and then zoom into it, you will see the waves clearly. The computer is able to see it clearly, but here you might not actually see it properly. So it is always picking where we have unusual amplitude, then it will analyze it and associate it with an earthquake and give you where that particular earthquake occurred, the magnitude of the earthquake. Then it will display it for us.
For example, could you show me Sunday morning's event?
Yeah.
Can you show me how it looked to you on your system?
Yes, the Sunday morning event is a small event, and if we look at our station distribution, this is the station in Ghana. So this is Ghana's station. But we have several stations all over the world. So when something happens, the waves moves. And then wherever it reaches where we have a station, it will pick it, and the time it picked it. So the time all these stations will pick it, we'll be able to determine where the epicenter is. Because under normal circumstances, all things being equal, the station that picks the wave first, the epicenter is closer to that station.
Right. Okay.
But the Sunday's one, the magnitude or the amount of energy that was released was very small. So the waves could not travel to all these stations, all these international stations. If it were to be a big earthquake, like say magnitude 5, 6, all these stations would have picked it. And automatically this particular system would have located it. So if you want to monitor the small earthquakes in your country, you need the local network. That is why we have stations in, as I mentioned earlier, in all these places, Weja, Kosombo, and the rest. So when they were all sending their signals here, and being a local system, the small earthquake, all these stations will pick it, and it will be able to analyze it. But because of the breakdown in the satellite transmission, those data are not coming here.
I see.
So that is why we could not automatically locate it quickly. Okay. But if we address the problem of data satellite transmission, every data will be coming. So when something happens and you call us, in a matter of seconds, we should be able to give you all the necessary.
But eventually you were able to get that data?
Yes, we were able to get that data. So this station, which I showed you here, this station, this is the Accra station, the one in the next one here, we were able to retrieve the data from this system. I don't think there will be the need for us to go through how we retrieve the data.
No.
Yeah, but we're able to retrieve the data from this system. So this is the station. So if you go to maintenance, you can put in your information, the date of the data you want. You put the date, you put the time, from the date to what time. If you want 1 hour data, you specify it, then you will download it.
Okay.
So we download.
I'm not sure our audience needs to know
so
that
we downloaded the data.
Show us?
So this is the data that we downloaded. Yeah.
Okay.
So we could see that the earthquake occurred on 2018 December 9th, and if you look at here, there was some small event here first. That one was around 7:39.
Right.
So you can see here 7:40, just around 7:39. And this is 7:50. So around 7:49.55 or so seconds, and the main event came. So we can zoom into the main event to see the waveform better. To see, let me go back. You can zoom in to see the waveform better. Yes, so you can zoom in to see the waveform better. So over there I told you that we leveled the seismometer because we are recording 3 components. Okay, so these are the 3 components that we are recording.
So
one
the
is
waves
the
from the
vertical.
ground?
Yes.
Then north to south, and then east to west?
East to west, and then the vertical, which is the Z. So that's why we've written Z here is the vertical. This N represents north-south, and this E represent east-west.
Right.
So these are the 3 waveforms that we have recorded. And maybe some people will want to know that they are afraid that we have different components of a wave. We have P wave, we have S wave. So the P wave is the fastest. So that is what arrived first here. So the first arrival here is the P wave.
Okay.
Then later the secondary wave comes. It is the secondary wave which is much more dangerous. And it has, you can see that it has bigger amplitudes than the first arrival, which is P wave. So when the P wave arrives, the P wave, when it comes in, is moving objects up, down. And the P wave cannot move collapse buildings because of its upward movement. But when the secondary wave comes, which the big ones that you see over here, they sway buildings sideways. So when they sway the building, they end up collapsing the building. So that's why we keep saying that as soon as you hear the first upward wave arriving, pushing you upward, if you can quickly hide under the table before this damaging S wave comes, the better. And it depends on where, because you can see that here, this particular station, the P wave and then the S wave, the distance was around 2.4 seconds.
Between the P wave and the S wave.
The earthquake started from around, what do we call it, Weja, Bawe area there, you see. And within 2.5 seconds, the waves had traveled all the way from that place to here for this station to pick it. So from the source, which is around Bawe, to this place, it traveled about 2.6 seconds. So when we even analyze the distance